Normally for fundraisers, when you have to raise thousands and thousands or millions of dollars, that's a lot of time, energy, and funds in order to throw fundraisers and things like that. With GiftAMeal for the food banks, it's a source of incremental, recurring, and growing donations that can help drive change for these different communities all over the country. And so it's been really, really heartwarming to work with all these different nonprofits and be a source of growth for them.
Welcome to Whisking It All with your host, Angela Esposito, co-founder of Whisk.ai, a food and beverage intelligence platform. We're going to be interviewing hospitality professionals around the world to really understand how they do what they do.
Welcome to another episode of Whisking It All. We're joined today by Andrew Glantz, founder and CEO at GiftAMeal. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course. So first of all, for people that don't know, can you, in a couple of sentences, explain what is GiftAMeal?
Of course. So GiftAMeal is a blend of community engagement and customer engagement for restaurants. Basically, what that means is that each time a guest takes a photo of their food or drink at a partner restaurant, we make a donation to a local food bank to give a meal to someone in need. So it makes the guest feel good and helps the restaurant give back.
I love that. I think I saw on your website, and correct me if I'm wrong, but about 2 million plus meals donated. Is that about right?
Yeah, we just reached 2 million meals donated a few weeks ago. So that was something that was really exciting to reach that milestone, especially when you think that it's easy to get lost in a number, but that's like 2 million people that are getting fed because of our partner restaurants and all their customers that are taking photos.
That's awesome. We're going to definitely jump more into like how it actually works. I'm curious of like, okay, taking the picture, how does it work? Understanding the model behind this and how that all comes together. But before jumping into that, I'd love to understand where the idea came from. Like, tell me a bit about your journey. Like, what led you to kind of founding GiftAMeal?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's two different journeys that kind of combined together into one. One was my entrepreneurial journey, and the other was my, social impact journey. From an entrepreneurial perspective, I've always kind of had that innovative bug, whether it was, in first grade making origami to sell out of my my little pencil box for a nickel or a dime, or, doing different things in order to build up different organizations that I've been a part of. And also when I was growing up, I was really big into volunteering, whether it was for underprivileged children for tutoring or I helped create a summer camp for underprivileged children where they had a sleepaway camp where they could get away for a week of the summer to kind of have all the fun and food that they could want. And it was there that I got, exposed to a lot of the kids that were facing food insecurity and heard their stories firsthand. And that was something that was really impactful for me. And so then when I was in college, I was having an internship at a venture capital firm, and the managing partner exposed me to the idea of a profits of the purpose business model and doing well by doing good. And I kind of combined my passions of entrepreneurship and social impact together into one, and saw that for-profits and nonprofits could really align their incentives and find business models that could support the two. And so I was on a lunch break with the other intern, and we were talking about how millennials like ourselves discover restaurants and how there were a lot of financial incentives like coupons and discounts, but not a lot that was really building an emotional connection with the brand. And we were looking to support socially conscious businesses. And so I kind of pulled from a Tom Shoes, Warby Parker buy one, give one model, along with the trend of people posting photos of food on social media, and tapped into the existing network of food banks across the country and put it all together into one for the take a photo to give a meal concept that we know and love today, and hired a developer and started to go door to door to some mom and pop restaurants, and didn't even have a car then. I was literally going up and down the street in the snow when I was in college, and between 2 and 4:30 p.m. to mom and pop restaurants to get early adopters, and graduated in May 2017, and then started to build it out in St. Louis over the years. And then 2021 raised some funds to be able to build out my team and really expand nationally. And now here we are in about 1,000 restaurants in 38 states and 2 million meals donated.
Wow. And looking at your website, I noticed you guys obviously work with some local places, but a lot of really cool chains. Like I saw Chick-fil-A on there and TGI Fridays and amongst a ton of Red Robin, amongst a bunch of others. So really, really cool to see the success and impact you're having. I'd want to, maybe for our restaurant listeners that are like, okay, this sounds interesting, like doing some good in the world, also helping the restaurant itself. Can you kind of explain a bit more on the product? Like, how does it actually work? So talk to me about like I'm a restaurant. I'm interested. I'm like, this sounds nice. Sounds like a good concept. What does process actually look like, and what actually happens? Like talking to me about the implementation side.
Yeah, of course. So let me start with the customer experience,
Perfect.
and then I'll talk about what the logistics are of actually providing the meals.
Perfect.
So for the customer experience, they order from a partner restaurant like normal. And then when they have their food, they scan a QR code off of a table tent or other signage at the restaurant or in their to-go bag to launch GiftAMeal on their phone. They then snap a photo of their food, drink, or even a selfie. And when they do that, we make a monetary donation to a local food bank to help fund the distribution of a meal getting to someone in need in their community. So one photo is one meal, and then the guest is invited to share that photo on their personal social media, and we give an extra meal for each platform they share on, since then they're promoting the restaurant to friends in a positive way. So sharing to GiftAMeal on Instagram, 2 meals. GiftAMeal Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter/X is up to 4 meals provided, and it's totally free for the guest. It takes them 15 seconds to participate. There's no app download or account creation required. And for the chains, we also can white label it to all be in their brand colors and everything. So that way it really feels like a native experience, because ultimately restaurants are paying for this as a mix of marketing and giving back. So we want them to get the credit of all this in order to really build that emotional connection with customers. So that's how it works from the guest standpoint. Really easy, just scan and snap. The restaurants can also integrate GiftAMeal within their own mobile app. We have integrations with Lunchbox, Thanks, Incentivio, also with online ordering partners like Olo, and guest feedback partners like Ovation and Tattle. And so the restaurant can really integrate GiftAMeal wherever they want from that experience.
That's neat.
But yeah, the QR code is kind of the core of where most people launch it from.
That's cool.
From implementation perspective, on the donation component, the restaurants are paying a flat program fee to be involved in GiftAMeal. So for an independent, it's $79 a month. Okay. And then for a chain, it's discounted to as low as $34 a month, depending on the number of locations.
Right.
So that's how we make our revenue. Right. And then for each photo taken, we're making a monetary donation from that program fee to the local food bank near that specific store to help provide a meal to someone in need. So even chain joins GiftAMeal, each individual store is matched to a local food bank in their community. So it's all hyper local.
That's cool.
And each of these food banks has a meal metric, which is their cost to distribute a meal's worth of healthy groceries to a neighborhood pantry. So when we say we're providing a meal, it's distributing 1.2 pounds of food or 1 meal's worth of food from their facility to a neighborhood pantry. Typically, they'll showcase on their website for every $1 donated, they can distribute 4 meals to those in need, or 5 meals, or 3 meals. On average, about 25 cents per meal. So that's actually what's donated for each photo taken.
That's really cool. And that's, first of all, congrats. It sounds great. It sounds like you're having some good success, both on traction on both sides. So out of curiosity, is there, obviously, you mentioned a bit about the marketing side for the restaurants. I can imagine having, hundreds of customers reposting probably helps their business. What does that look like when they repost on, let's say, an Instagram? Let's take me. Let's make it simpler. I go in, scan it, snap a pic, post it on my Instagram and TikTok. What does the brand do with that? Does that just give them kind of like recognition in terms of my audience now sees it, or are they reposting it? Like tell me a bit about like just more of the marketing side. I'm curious to understand.
That's a good question. So at the very basic level, they're getting a customer to share an authentic and uplifting experience with their friends. So they're basically turning you as the customer into a micro influencer.
Makes sense.
That's the most genuine thing. There's not a hashtag ad next to it. And it's like your friends are going to trust your recommendations.
Perfect.
So you post it out. The restaurant can then be tagged in that post as well. We auto suggest a tag for the business. And then a lot of our restaurants do a great job of responding to those to create that extra positive touch point. Like Snarf Sandwiches has 35 locations all on GiftAMeal, and they do a great job of replying back and having fun with the responses too, to really elongate that positive guest touch point.
That's cool.
And make them feel that sense of emotional connection. But it really goes beyond just the social media posting from the marketing standpoint. If you're looking behind the scenes at GiftAMeal from a behavioral science standpoint, the guest, through using GiftAMeal, is feeling that sense of emotional connection to the brand and a sense of gratitude for the brand because it's free for the guest and funded by the restaurant. They feel that sense of gratitude, but they also feel good about themselves because they triggered this donation by taking a photo. But it's not too much effort to actually participate. Right. So it's some effort where they feel good about themselves, but not too much. And so that, combined with the restaurant funding it, really creates that sense of emotional connection. And we've seen that that's led to guests on average across all of our case studies these guests are returning 39% more frequently.
Wow.
They're spending 20% more per order, and they're tipping 32% more.
Wow.
And this is all with just a selfless incentive, no discounting or couponing or anything that cuts into a restaurant's margins.
Wow, that's super interesting. Those are really, really good metrics. I mean, one of the most important metrics, which you named, but is like what percentage of guests are returning more than the first or second time. That's probably one of the biggest metrics to look at when you're running a restaurant, and the fact that you can have that 39% effect for a second visit is huge. That's impressive.
Yeah, and when there's in an industry where it's like 80% of customers aren't coming back, like 20% of the business is 80% of customers.
Exactly.
And then you're like, how do I get the other 80% to keep on coming back?
Wow.
This is a great way to capture those guests. And especially for like Gen Z and millennial customers that really care about giving back.
Yeah.
It's been something that's really important in order to capture that demographic.
I love that. I'd be curious because, like, obviously, the way we're talking about it now, it's like this sounds awesome. Like, there's not too much friction. The fact that you didn't do a mobile app and it's like web, so you don't have to download anything. No lot. Like, you're hitting all the points of like, oh, this sounds like a no-brainer, which obviously is a great business to have if it sounds like a no-brainer. So, looking back to the earlier days, I'm curious, what were maybe some key challenges you faced in the early stages of GiftAMeal?
Yeah. And I mean, that's not to say that there's no challenges today.
Right.
I mean, there's plenty of times where I'm talking to a restaurant and they kind of say what you just said, that it's a no-brainer, and then they just get busy with other priorities. And that's just kind of the state of the industry, that restaurants are busy. They have things with staffing and supply chain and, just tech working from an operational level. And so even though marketing is a must have, sometimes it could be something that gets pushed back on the priority list. So I think that's a challenge for us. In terms of grabbing the attention of a restaurant and getting it to implementation is when we have that attention. Makes and also sense. Just because things cost money for budgeting perspectives. But in terms of the early day challenges, I mean, it was like that, but amplified because we didn't have those proof of concept numbers that I shared. And so it was all like theoretical, like sharing, studies that were done generally about how people want to support businesses that give back and everything. But people, took surveys and stuff with many grains of salt and were like, will this actually help my business? And, no one wants to be the first big fish, especially for the chain restaurants. And so the way that we started to expand was at first we did mom and pops. Yeah. Then we had a regional chain join with Lion's Choice with their 30 locations. Wow. And then I started pitching places outside of St. Louis, and they were like, okay, you've shown that this could work with one chain. We're based in St. Louis. That's where Lion's Choice is. And they said, okay, you can work with a chain, but can this work outside of St. Louis? And then we got a first franchisee join of Andy's Frozen Custard, where they were half in St. Louis, half in the Carolinas. And then it was like, oh, this can actually work there too. Wow. And then that helped us sign up our first national chain, and it all kind of snowballed from there. And, now we work with all types of brands, like 130 locations of Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, or 114 locations of Pizza Factory, or 238 Gong Cha locations, or, some brands you mentioned, like we work with franchisees of TGI Fridays and like Jimmy John's, and that's awesome. Like a bunch of these other Chick-fil-A and a bunch of these other brands. I think just, restaurants are busy. That's a challenge, and explaining things in a clear and concise way, and capturing attention and budget and showing the impact is really what's key.
I love that. And how do you go about measuring, let's say, the impact of GiftAMeal on these local communities, right? Because you're in so many different areas and states and whatnot. So how do you guys think about that, and how do you measure it?
So each of our partner restaurants has access to a GiftAMeal dashboard where they can see the impact that's being generated for each local food bank. So like for Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken that I mentioned, for their 130 locations, they're supporting, I think, something like 30-ish different food banks of these different metros that they're a part of. And so they can track the impact that's generated for each community that they serve. So with GiftAMeal, they're getting a unified giving solution that also is local. So it's something their franchisees and staff and customers can really get behind. Got it. For us as a company, not just for thinking about our partner restaurants, we're supporting 135 different food banks across the country now in 38 states. And so when you're looking at how we're measuring that impact, that's enabling these food banks to have not just the money, but also the staff time in order to dedicate to their programming and everything. Normally for fundraisers, when you have to raise thousands and thousands or millions of dollars, that's a lot of time, energy, and funds in order to throw fundraisers and things like that. With GiftAMeal for the food banks, it's a source of incremental, recurring, and growing donations that can help drive change for these different communities all over the country. And so it's been really, really heartwarming to work with all these different nonprofits and be a source of growth for them.
That's great, by the way. I love what I'm hearing. How do you think about or how do you, I guess, gauge key metrics in terms of success of GiftAMeal? So that's super interesting to see how you measure the kind of local impact side. But how do you know if restaurant X is getting a lot out of GiftAMeal? I'd love to think about some maybe KPIs you look at when deciding if a restaurant's successful or not.
I mean, the number one metric is just, are people doing it? Are people taking photos? How many photos are they sharing on social media? And then also qualitatively what they're saying in their captions and sharing out. And also something that's cool is that in the restaurant's GiftAMeal dashboard, they could access all the photo content, and they have the rights to that photo content to use on their social media. So GiftAMeal is also kind of a byproduct of GiftAMeal is a library of user-generated content,
pretty cool.
Which is, it's pretty sweet. It's a treasure trove for marketers when UGC is the most trusted and authentic content out there.
Cool.
And so, it's cool to see that as well. So in terms of measuring the impact of everything, it's in terms of usage, social media shares and impressions, looking at customer sentiment scoring for the brand, and even through partnerships with the industry, with Ovation for guest feedback. We have an integration with them for Groucho's Deli, a 30 location brand, where at the end of the GiftAMeal experience, we prompt them to fill out Ovation's guest feedback form. And we've seen that the guests that come from GiftAMeal, that originate from GiftAMeal and fill out their guest feedback form, are on average giving that restaurant a 4.9 out of 5 stars for their satisfaction. And already they're getting great ratings from other places too. But, if you can get an extra half a star or a third of a star boost, then that's something that makes a really big difference. And also the GiftAMeal customers were more likely to write a positive review for the business on Google and Yelp. So taking a step back, when you're looking at the KPIs, GiftAMeal's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. It's more likely to write positive reviews, more likely to have higher guest sentiment scoring, social media shares, and then also things like I mentioned earlier, like the visit frequency, check size, tip size. And so when you're doing good for the community and you're making customers feel good about themselves, that leads to a lot of good things for the business.
I love that. And it's funny because at a quick glance, right, if someone was listening at the beginning, it's cool, GiftAMeal, great concept, helping the community, which is already great, don't get me wrong. But then as you kind of start uncovering these layers, you're oh, wait, we mentioned that 39% of, that guests that come a second time, and then loyalty, and then the star ratings, and you kind of start looking at all these things, and it's wow, it pays to do good because there's a lot of good that comes on the other side, which is really neat.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that I'm really passionate about too, is spreading the word that these types of business models are out there, and business ideas where doing good can drive the bottom line for a restaurant in a way that just doing a selfish financial incentive might not necessarily. And it's not saying that something like GiftAMeal replaces all of those other options out there, but it could be a great complement in the marketing tools for a brand.
That makes sense. And out of curiosity, how do you guys think about selecting a restaurant partner? Is it good for anyone and everyone that serves food, period? Or do you guys have certain niches or certain types of restaurants that you really do well with?
There's definitely some the types of restaurants that are more likely to sign up for GiftAMeal, like quick service, fast casual dining, more than fine dining.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Because if you're thinking about fine dining, if it's a really low lit restaurant, even though it might be photogenic food, there's not lighting to take a photo. And they might, if it's a white tablecloth restaurant, they might not have any signage up on the table that can prompt a call to action to take a photo and scan a QR code and everything. So, more the quick service, fast casual dining space, but also coffee shops have done really well with GiftAMeal. Even we have a lot of franchisees of a drive-through coffee shop with Scooters Coffee, and they have a window cleaned up in the window, and their staff are all super friendly, and so it's that same vibe as GiftAMeal, and it's another positive touch point between the staff member and the customer. So all different types of restaurants, and we work with independent restaurants too, but now we lean about 70% chains and 30% independents. From just because it's for our perspective, it's a way to scale quicker, to work with larger brands and everything. But mom and pops are still kind of at the heart and at the beginning of the business. And so I talked with another mom and pop myself earlier today, because I still think it's important to learn from these operators, because I think you can also apply lessons from these independents to the chains and the reverse as well.
Agreed. That makes a ton of sense. And what strategies would you say you kind of use to ensure maybe that the restaurants are continue to participate, right? Like ideally, when you onboard them, they start using it. That's probably I would imagine one of the most important metrics is like time to like actually the value of actually starting to use it. But how do you think about kind of maintaining that to make sure like over time, 6 months in, a year in, that they're still kind of, using GiftAMeal and on top of it?
I mean, to launch GiftAMeal, it takes a brand 2 to 4 weeks max.
Okay, that's fast. Wow.
Yeah, so it's really quick. I mean, if the brand wants to wait longer and, there's planning in advance for their budget for next year, they can do that too. But we have it really seamless on our side, and there's no extra effort for staff to launch the program. And then for retaining that restaurant, it's really about continuing to show the value, like you mentioned. And we give our restaurants monthly updates so they can track the progress over time. And then they can continually see the impact generated in their GiftAMeal dashboard for their business and their communities, and just making them feel good about what they're doing and seeing that cumulative impact grow over time. And then also developing that long-term relationship with customers where they're really developing that emotional connection with the brands, where they think, when I think of this brand, this is a socially conscious brand. So in a competitive restaurant industry, this restaurant is going to stand out in my consideration set where I'm deciding where to go. And so GiftAMeal isn't just a one-off give back benefit night type of thing. Instead, it's something that's inherent to that brand's identity. That's cool. And that's something we've seen that's actually led to a lot of these positive case studies in terms of like the visit frequency, check size, tip size, and all that, is that there's an impact created over time when GiftAMeal is a perpetual part of that restaurant's identity.
That's awesome. And just to maybe shed some light, we have a good chunk of restaurant operators and owners listening in on this. And so what does the process maybe look like at a high level? I'm sure it's different if it's a big chain or a smaller, but in general, can you maybe walk through the typical process for a restaurant to maybe join GiftAMeal? They go to your website, they like what they see. What happens? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I'll talk through from an independent and a chain. Sure. For an independent, they literally go to giftameal.com/partner. They can click join now and they can sign up. We would ship them some promo materials. And then, so if they do that, it's $79 a month. They sign up, we ship promo materials, they launch within a week.
Easy. Okay.
There's also the option for $69 a month, so $10 of savings if they decide to print their own materials as well. But we offer the option of us providing pre-printed materials to try to make it as turnkey as possible. So for an independent, they can launch super fast. For a chain, they sign up, again, giftameal.com/partner. They sign up, provide a list of their locations and payment info on the sign up form, set a start date. Then they let us know what type of promo materials they want to use for the program, whether it's, like a counter stand or a table sticker or something printed on the menu or whatever type of signage they want, or a coaster, or so like a bag stuffer, something like that. And then our designer is offered up to the restaurant free of charge in order to create branded promo material designs for them. So again, trying to take off the work for the restaurant.
And the work,
Yeah, our designer creates different designs for them. The restaurant's then responsible for printing and distributing those materials. And whenever they arrive, then we can launch the restaurant. So typically that's the 2 to 4 week period I mentioned earlier for a chain restaurant to join GiftAMeal. And so it's something that's super quick and easy. And we also have a PR firm that we utilize as well, Proof PR, who's amazing. And so, for those larger restaurants, when they join, they can help make a big splash for the launch and everything as well. So that's always exciting to see too.
That's cool. And you kind of touched on it just at the end there, but I was actually just about to ask. So if that was it, that's cool. If there's more, I'd love to know. How does GiftAMeal, let's say, integrate with the restaurant's existing, marketing strategy? I'd love to hear maybe some examples. And you kind of just touched on the PR side, which is exactly where my brain was going, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Yeah. So, from the PR side, that's something that's great. I just got an email earlier today from the email marketing specialist of Groucho's Deli, who's sent me an email she's going to send out tomorrow morning to their email list, showcasing that they provided over 30,000 meals to those in need, and thanking their customers for that. And so for even the customers that didn't participate in taking a photo, they feel like they're a part of a brand that's giving back. And it's a way to kind of boost that engagement rates on email as well. So they're using it in email. There's brands like Pizza Factory that are posting on their Instagram story story multiple times a week with that user-generated content, the photos being posted from GiftAMeal. So they're kind of having a complement there. There's restaurants that post graphics once a month about how many meals they provided to give updates. There's also, as I mentioned, we have integrations with these other food tech providers in order to have GiftAMeal be seamlessly integrated. Like Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken has a GiftAMeal button within their own mobile app as well. And so that's something that's super seamless. And again, because we want the restaurant to get the credit for all of this. So we really look to complement their existing marketing strategies and give them the assets available to really make the most of their experience in GiftAMeal to boost their other marketing strategies while also providing an effective complement.
I love that. And any examples you can give? You kind of touched on it, but I'm super curious on the social media side as well. Like, have you seen any brands use pretty interesting stuff when it comes to their restaurant's social media presence?
Like, I think there's some really cool stories that are being told by restaurant customers, or being had by restaurant customers every day and being told by those customers too. So being able to capture and share those stories. For instance, at Scooter's Coffee a few months ago, there was an 104-year-old woman that gifted a meal with her Caramelicious coffee from Scooter's. I think her great granddaughter helped her out with it. But, a 104-year-old taking the photo on GiftAMeal and, sharing that out. Or there was a woman who shared out a photo last month from Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, who has 1.5 million followers on social media. And she's somebody who has had a very unique dwarfism condition. And she's somebody who's very positive and spreads the good word about things. And, she was sharing the good word about Lee's doing GiftAMeal. All of her followers. And so, taking these customer moments that are really something that's special. And that's what restaurants are all about, creating memorable moments with friends and family and these positive experiences that enhance our day-to-day lives, and finding those stories to share out about the brand. So people don't think about it as just a transaction, but they think about this brand as being something that's an additive part of their communities.
That makes a ton of sense. And I'm getting a real good, complete picture now. It's really for the most part, a no-brainer. I want to go just a bit deeper on the restaurant local giving side. So I want to understand more just the logistics of that, because everything else is crystal clear. And sounds really easy to set up, the printing, the scanning, the social media side, the ROI, the integrations, it's all making a ton of sense, marketing efforts, etc. And so now when it comes time to the actual, let's take that example. Hey, over this year, they gave out 30,000 free meals. What do the logistics look like? I know we touch on it a bit, but I want to get a bit of a better understanding. Is the restaurant actually preparing those meals and giving them out, or who and how is that side working? I want to get a bit more clarity there.
So there's no food prep or logistics required for the restaurant. Providing a meal means 1.2 pounds of healthy groceries that are donated by supermarkets and food drives and food distributors is being distributed to a pantry. And so basically on the first of every month, our system tallies up how many photos were taken at each restaurant location and which food bank it's attributed to. And then each food bank has a meal metric to say, hey, it costs them when they distribute in bulk for, the cost of trucking and labor and refrigeration. It costs them 25 cents to distribute meals worth of groceries to the food bank. So 4 meals per dollar donated, or 5 meals, or whatever it is. We multiply the number of photos times that meal metric that's provided by the food bank, and that's just standard. And then make a monetary donation to each of these 135 different food banks across the country. So 0 logistics required for the restaurant.
Thank you. That's great. I'm happy we clarified that, because that was my one kind of gray area where I was how does that side work? Are they doing it? Is it just the monetary donation? But that makes a ton of sense.
And to clarify, we're not the ones coming up with this meal metric. This is something that all of the food banks use as a standard. Right. And their meal metrics might be different based on their operating costs. But that's something that's already out there and that's been proven out and that's validated and calculated. And our innovation was just connecting that meal metric to the act of taking a photo.
That makes sense. I love that. And so kind of turning pages, what's next for you guys, right? Thinking about the future of GiftAMeal, anything you want to share with our listeners of kind of what's next and where you're heading?
Yeah, I think that when we're looking at the future of GiftAMeal, we're looking to see how can we continue to make it easier for customers to engage with a restaurant's social responsibility. And, we're playing around with a lot of different ways to do that, whether it's with NFC tags as a way instead of a QR code where you can just tap a signage in order to launch GiftAMeal on your phone in case a restaurant has QR code fatigue. We're going to be playing around with that technology and see if that's feasible from a cost perspective for, material printing and distribution, and then also from a tech perspective. Playing around with things, maybe with some different causes. Like, if a restaurant wants to support veterans and military families in particular. I had a call with an organization earlier this week that was interested in being a beneficiary of GiftAMeal in that capacity. So seeing how GiftAMeal can not just be helping local food banks, but these other organizations as well. That a restaurant might have a close tie to from their founders or something like that. And beyond that, we're really looking to say, hey, we've taken this model, we've proven it out, we've proven this with a lot of different restaurants, and now we're ready for more partnerships in order to support more restaurants around the country, both for their business and each community that they serve, and see that meals number go up from 2 million to 5 million to 10 million. And our partner restaurants, we would love to be in 20,000 restaurants instead of 1,000 restaurants. And it's kind of, as a startup, you're always de-risking yourself further and further, improving yourself out. And I feel like we've done that at this point where we're ready for an 1,000 location restaurant to sign up tomorrow. And we've built it all out to be able to handle that type of traffic and be able to deliver the value.
I love that. And I guess, one way we always like to wrap up is just any ways we can just plug you guys. So really, website, if you have your own podcast, if you have LinkedIn, whatever you want. But no matter what, we'll also put this in the description. But just for our listeners who are maybe just listening in and not on their computer or their phone, anything you want to plug, this is your chance. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Appreciate the opportunity. If somebody is a restaurant listening, if they go to giftameal.com/partner, they can see more information, or giftameal.com/demo, and we'll set up a 15-minute Zoom demo to dive into the specifics of the program and showcase how it works a little bit more in depth and everything too. So giftameal.com/partner, giftameal.com/demo. And if you want to see more, and you can follow us on social media at GiftAMeal on all the social media platforms and everything. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us at info@giftameal.com to ask any questions to us. And and then just thank you so much for the opportunity to come on here. And I really enjoyed the conversation and all the insightful questions.
No, it's been a pleasure. Honestly, Andrew, it's great. It's really cool to hear what you guys are doing. It makes a ton of sense. And even on our end, I'm sure we'll be able to do some cross marketing. So we'll follow up with you guys, but I love what you guys are doing. So even maybe on our next email blast, we could plug you guys in there and maybe get you some potential leads. So we'll be talking more about. With that said, Andrew, thank you for joining the Whisking It All podcast, for sharing your journey as an entrepreneur, where you guys are at. 2 million meals plus delivered. Next time we speak, you might be at 5, you might be at 10 million. So it'll be exciting. But thanks for being on once again, founder and CEO at GiftAMeal, Andrew Glantz. It was a pleasure having you on today.
Thanks so much.
Feel free to check out whisk.ai for more resources and schedule a demo with one of our product specialists to see if it's a fit for you.